Do you have people that work remotely and you're not sure, hey, how do you create the right environment for them when it comes to HR and payroll? Do you even have this in your handbook? Well, today I have the expert of all things HR and payroll with Steve Mann and HR and the Payroll Power Hour. And he is from Payentry, and we are going to jump into that. Let's bring in the guru of knowledge. That is Steve Mann. Hey, Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How about yourself?
Good. Hey, Steve, did you get a new background? Because you look fantastic, may I say.
I did. Nothing escapes your eagle eye, Jeff.
Well, you always catch my attention because you are so good looking and you present yourself so well. I'm thinking, wait a second, something's changed.
Oh,
He didn't,
brother.
he didn't get a haircut. It's not the glasses. It's that background. Great
Yes.
stuff. Well, I understand today you're going to talk a little bit about, when we're talking about remote workers. And I know there's been, over the course of like, hey, we want people to come back to work. But the reality is there's still a lot of folks that work remotely. And, are you going to talk a little bit about how do we manage those people? What do we need to make sure that we have in place to, when it comes to HR and payroll to take care of those people?
I think those are some things. I think, as always, Jeff, try not to get into the weeds, but I think we'll just give some business owners some things to think about. As I think remote the notion of remote work is probably here to stay.
Well, I do recall this as a kid being told it's easier to maintain something and less expensive than it is to fix it after it's broken. And it seems like if people will lean into this and say, wait a second, Steve is dropping all this great knowledge to say, I need to tune up my HR and my payroll, my policies, and things like that, versus the first person who comes along and now recognizes that my policies are broken, that could be a problem. Am I overstating the simplicity of that or the importance of that?
Jeff, I think in this context on this show, sometimes keeping it simple is, erring on the side of simplicity is better. And I think in this instance, you are not oversimplifying it. And I do like your analogy of a tune-up. And I think that is true when it comes to HR, is that it is easy to, I think what a business wants to avoid is waiting until something goes amiss, something goes sideways, there's complaints before you start to make changes. Oftentimes that can be too late. So, and I think business owners will be always tend to be surprised by I think everything ultimately is about cost. Maybe how the cost to make some, to tune up, to make some modifications is less than what people might think. And then of course you get the benefit of protecting your business and making yourself a more desirable employer.
It's often, as we in my business, we will talk to people about building a website, and one of the pieces of conversation I always have with them is I say, now realize this website is a living document. And they're going like, what does that mean? I thought once I built it, I'm done with it. I said, oh no, it is constantly changing. Whether it's adding a blog, it's adding new pictures, things like that. Is that really the mindset we need to have as business owners when we say, okay, I have my policy and procedures manual today. Now I'm done. I never have to look at it again.
I think again, Jeff, you're spot on with your comments. It is hey, maybe not to be too dramatic and everything, but your company policies, your handbook, and related items. It is living and breathing, or at the least dynamic. I mean, it's something that you should be looking at. Just being made aware of the need to update it at certain critical times. Certainly at least once a year. But and while that used to be the standard for some larger organizations, now I think the advice is every 6 months. So I think just the point is that it is not one of those, hey, I did this, now I don't have to think about it for forever, for years or things like that.
Well, Steve, I'm super excited to hear about what you have to say today. I've kind of peeked behind the curtain for you. I've seen some of your notes. I'm excited to see you unpack those and share with us your knowledge. I'm going to step aside, get my paper and pencil. Yes, I still use paper and pencil, folks. And I'm going to take some notes. And with that, I'm going to turn over to you. Let's have a great show, Steve.
Okay, thanks. All right, everyone. So we're talking about remote work, and boy, doesn't it seem like not that long ago that remote work, you might talk to a lot of people, individuals, before you find someone that says, "Oh yeah, I work remotely. I don't go to an office." Then the pandemic happened, and remote work became much more common, much more frequent. And I think that suffice to say that. Uh, Remote work is here to stay. So I think just on the first topic, remote work is expected to remain a significant part of the economy moving forward. Uh, yes, the pandemic forced many people to work from home, and that changed a lot of things. Certainly, the economy, and it made remote work more permanent in the process. So, talking about the importance of adapting HR policies accordingly. So, adapting HR policies to remote work is crucial because it allows companies to effectively manage and support employees who work outside of a traditional office setting, uh, fostering better productivity, employee satisfaction, and retention by addressing unique challenges like communication, performance evaluation, and work life balance specific to a remote workforce, essentially ensuring that remote employees have the same access to resources and opportunities as in house employees. All right. So now I'd like to just go over some key reasons why adapting HR policies to remote work is important to a business. So first, let's talk about improved employee engagement and satisfaction. Uh, Flexible work arrangements like remote work can significantly increase employee satisfaction by allowing them to better manage their personal lives and work schedules, enhance productivity. When employees have the autonomy to work remotely, they may be more motivated and productive due to reduced distractions and the ability to work at their own pace. Uh, Talent acquisition and retention. By offering remote work options, companies can access a wider pool of talent and potentially reduce employee turnover by catering to diverse needs and preferences. And cost savings, of course. How could last but not least, companies can potentially reduce costs related to office space and commuting expenses by allowing employees to work remotely. Now, maybe on the flip side, you need to be mindful to address unique challenges of remote work, um, starting with communication. So, clear communication policies are vital for remote teams, including uh, regular check-ins, designated communication channels, and guidelines for virtual meetings. Performance evaluation. Performance metrics need to be adjusted to focus on outcomes and deliverables rather than simply hours spent working, as monitoring can be more challenging in a remote environment. Work life balance. Policy should promote healthy boundaries and encourage employees to take breaks to prevent burnout, which can be more prevalent in remote work environments. And finally, technology support. So certainly providing employees with necessary technology and training to work effectively remotely is essential. Okay, so some areas to adapt HR policies for remote work. And I touched upon a few of these just now, but work hours and scheduling. Your business is going to want to implement flexible work hours and policies that allow employees to set their own schedules based on their needs and responsibilities. Performance management, shift focus to outcome based performance evaluations, utilizing regular feedback loops and digital performance tracking tools. Communication guidelines, establish clear expectations, for communication channels, meeting frequency, and response times. And finally, employee well-being. Offer programs that support mental health and work-life balance, including access to wellness resources and flexible time off policies. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about some key points to include for a business to include in updated remote work policies. Um, Clear expectations, define clear performance goals, deliverables, and timelines for remote employees, ensuring everyone understands what's expected of them. Communication protocols, establish preferred communication channels, for example, email, instant messaging, video calls, and expected response times to maintain efficient communications flow. Performance metrics, clearly outline the metrics used to evaluate remote employee performance, ensuring they align with the nature of remote work. Work-life balance, promote healthy work-life boundaries by encouraging regular breaks, setting reasonable working hours, and discouraging excessive after-hours communication. Technology requirements, specify the technology equipment and software employees are required to have for effective remote work, including any company-provided tools. Cybersecurity measures, outline strict guidelines for data security, password management, and home network protection to safeguard sensitive information. Eligibility for remote work. Clearly define which roles are eligible for remote work and any necessary requirements to qualify. Flexible scheduling. So if applicable, outline guidelines for flexible work hours, or the ability to set an employee's own schedule while still ensuring core working hours are adhered to. Employee check-ins. Establish regular check-in procedures with managers to monitor progress, address concerns, and provide feedback. Virtual collaboration tools. Encourage the use of collaboration platforms and tools to facilitate team interaction and project management, despite physical distance. Reimbursement policies. Clarify which remote-related expenses, such as home office setup, will be reimbursed by the company. Social interaction. Promote virtual social events or team building activities to maintain a sense of community and connection among remote employees. Excuse me. All right, and a few more important considerations. Legal compliance. I want to ensure remote work policies comply with relevant employment laws regarding work hours, overtime, and data privacy. Employee feedback. Regularly gather feedback from remote employees to identify areas for improvement and adjust policies accordingly. Manager training. Provide training for managers on effectively managing remote teams, including communication strategies and performance evaluation techniques. All right, now this is the time where we talk a little bit about how Payentry can help. And in a nutshell, our HR professionals are trained and certified to address or take into consideration all the items, or variables that I just covered with any client. And the way that we know which tools to employ, the best approach to take with a given client, our MO is to lead off with an HR audit. HR audits are conducted by Brett Strauss, who is our Director of Compliance, a licensed labor attorney, specializing in employment and labor law. And Brett's audits typically take 2 to 3 hours to complete and can be split into 2 sessions. During the HR audit, he's going to go over each element of a business's current processes, from recruiting, hiring, termination, personnel files, payroll, wage and hour processing, benefits, and everything in between. And I've often heard him make the analogy of peeling back the layers of an onion to uncover any potential risk or liability. So Brett also uses his time as an educational element for business owners. So our main objective is to ensure the organization is compliant in all aspects of HR operations and finding solutions for the situations that fall under a gray area. After Brett's completed, he generates a scorecard or a report card, if you will, at the end of each audit, outlining the results and recommendations made for each area covered. So certainly the results of that audit would would play heavily into how we would choose to assist a business with a policy development. But what would happen at a high level at that point is we'd have each business would have a dedicated HR professional. It might not be that might not be the only person, but they would have a single point of contact that would help get to know your business, build a custom HR action plan, and work with the business step by step throughout implementing these policies. And then we would know how to which tools would be appropriate, which tools and methods to leverage to manage remote teams effectively. And I think that I always finish up these meetings with an invitation or an offer for a complimentary session, and something like this could be just learning about your HR policies. If you do have a remote team, what are you doing currently, and what are things that are working? Maybe what are some areas of concern? And that certainly would be something that could be a prelude to any advice or consultation that we give you. With that, Jeff, I don't know if you want to come back on and join us.
Yeah, Steve, I thought that was great. I took a few notes here. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. One is the whole idea of your work-life balance. I notice myself is sometimes I'll get, because I work remotely now. I used to have an office, but with COVID and whatnot, I shut it down, and my staff works worldwide. But what I find is, I'll get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll work, and then I'll take a little bit of a break, and then I'll work again. Next thing I'll know, it's dark 30, and maybe because some of my people are remote in other parts of the world, I'll have a 7:30, 8 o'clock night meeting. How does the HR audit and what goes on help make sure that, hey, I'm not asking my staff from other parts of the world to bend to my hours and to make it flexible? I mean, I don't expect you to give me a detailed answer, but is that something in the process that says, okay, now I can take these and put in some kind of a handbook, so when my staff is working out of South Africa and it's 9:30 in the morning here and it's 7 o'clock in the evening there, it's not interrupting their life balance?
Yeah, I think that, and let me be clear, you weren't mentioning the scheduling of the audit itself. You're talking about maybe the audit uncovers
Right.
you have a disparate workforce, and maybe how to handle people that are working at different times. I think certainly that would be something that would be would definitely be uncovered and discussed in the course of the audit, and then that would be something that I think Brett and or our HR team could make some suggestions on how to best address those differences in time. Because and it's interesting that you chose that analogy of South Africa. I had in a previous career my manager, who was the owner of the company, lived in South Africa, and so it was very similar to what you said, and again with the work-life balance thing, I think that there were when there were times that we were working on something that was time sensitive, I knew that if I stayed up till I don't know, like 8 o'clock or something like that, I'd probably start to see emails from him. Like if I sent him something that, hey, I need your help, I need your response from this, I could expect to get a response from him then, and then it would be maybe an idea of, okay, I have some ideas or things that I can act on or and do something, and then maybe I can catch him at the end of his day, do something, maybe interact with the customer or do that. But I think even as I'm saying this again, I didn't mind doing that. I didn't think that it was putting me out or leading to burnout or anything like that. But there are some people that just might think, oh, like, oh, wait a second, you're communicating, you're doing work after 8 o'clock at night, and then maybe you're getting up first thing in the morning to try to maybe like 5:30 to maybe to try to communicate, catch your manager at the end of the day. I just sort of thought it was just, hey, it was just a circumstance. But I think that I'm sorry if I'm rambling a little bit, but I think that is something that certainly our HR team would be able to provide some ideas on how to maybe mitigate feelings that people might have that maybe their work life balance is a little askew.
I like that. And also, you talked about the tools that we might use to communicate with these people. And, we hear about, things like Slack. I use a product that, up until maybe 2 years ago, I never used it at all. But I find that almost every one of my remote workers globally use WhatsApp. And we use that extensively, and so it's always on my computer, and a little ding if somebody says something. So it is a way to keep in touch, and I do love the fact that some of my remote workers, when I go to bed, they're just starting their day. So when I wake up, if I've given them a task, 9 times out of 10 when I wake up, the job is done. So it's like, hey, while I was sleeping, this got done. So I love that aspect of it. But the other thing I want to touch on is this whole social interaction. Now, I don't know how you feel, but sometimes, this is my social interaction for the day. The rest of the time, I'm working between myself and my computer. And yes, I might be communicating with my staff, but it's not social interaction. And sometimes I'll notice when my mind starts to wander, or my I guess my energy starts to drop, I need to kind of step outside and see other people, maybe take myself to lunch. Any thoughts on that you would say, hey, this could be something that works into a policy handbook?
I definitely I would agree 100%. And I think that might have touched upon that briefly at some point in there. And maybe that almost falls into the encouraging people to take breaks. If not
Yeah.
regular breaks, and that because I think an interesting thing. I think a lot of people, if you ask a typical person about, hey, what do you think about remote work? They would probably reply in some positive context. Oh, it's great. I work from home. I'm not spending time in the car. I have, I have some flexibility of hours. A lot of the things that I mentioned, but I did also mention the potential for burnout, because I think that there are, if not left unchecked, I think that people can go a little overboard, and almost like just what you said, kind of a little nose to the grindstone, and not looking out for themselves, enough. So I think that it should be in there that there should be some sort of encouragement, some form of encouragement for taking breaks. Getting up and walking around, like you said, maybe going out with somebody, having lunch. I think those are all healthy suggestions.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of just one more email, just one more task. It's easy to do when it's across the hall and you can just walk in and hit it. Next thing you know, it's a half hour late, and your spouse or your partner saying, hey, let's wrap it up. It's dinner time, or it's time to go to bed. So this is great information, Steve. I see you have on the screen there your complimentary consultation, 760-309-8807. And you get a hold of Steve also via email at steve.mann, that's 2 N's, at payentry.com. Now, I understand Payentry has something once a month. Can you share with us about that?
Thanks for reminding me, Jeff. Yes. So Brett Strauss, the person that I alluded to earlier, typically will have one webinar a month on some HR topic of relevance. And so I would encourage you all to just go to our simple URL, payentry.com, and there's usually it should be pretty easy for you to find a way to register for an upcoming webinar. Another nice change that our great marketing team has done is making it easier for people to access previous webinars. So I think, well, I think before maybe we sent people off to YouTube, or things like that, and nothing against YouTube, but I think the point is maybe putting some extra steps in for somebody that maybe who's really interested in looking at a webinar. And now it's a simple matter of maybe for a couple of clicks from the point that you're registering for an upcoming webinar, and you want to take a look, like, hey, I wonder what they had last month, previously. It's pretty easy for anyone to do. So
I love it. Well, just a quick recap. This was a show with Steve, and talked about, remote work and making sure that you have policies and procedures in place, and realizing that this is a you called it a dynamic piece of equipment for running your business, meaning it's not static. You don't do it once and just leave it alone, because conditions will change. And then it's just a matter of maybe, hey, you add a line here, extract a line here, update everybody, and you just stay ahead of the game. As we said before, it's like maintaining your car. It's so much less expensive to maintain than it is to fix after you look in the rearview mirror and there's smoke and parts of your engine are falling off behind you. That gets crazy. So don't put yourself in that situation. Make sure to get a hold of Steve. I'm going to put his information up there one more time. Steve Mann, 760-309-8807. Steve, you are a wealth of knowledge. Any last bit of information you want to share with us before we say adios and we'll see you next week?
You're too kind. I think we'll let everybody go. Thanks for listening, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Steve. Have a great week. Bye-bye.